Alright, so this is my 1000 subscriber special, and so a fitting celebration I figure is to simply do my top 10 games of all time. And this isn't a purely critical list, by the way, and also I'm only doing one game per franchise per series. And since this list is such a big topic, I got a lot of honorable mentions. Before we get into the rest of the video, I'd like to mention that my Steam game, Laser Rush Reloaded, is available to play right now. Shoot, climb, slash, dash, jump, slide, and ride into the most intense roller coaster of a movement shooter platformer that you've ever played. Experience challenging, chaotic combat and high-stakes platforming at the same time. Fight at top speed and laser rush. Also, I want to make sure the game is as good as possible. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. You can do so in the Steam Community Hub or wherever else. I'm going to first start off with games that are really nostalgic to me, although they just don't quite hit the best games. Cruis'n World, Galaga, Halo 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Guitar Hero World Tour, the King Kong movie game, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and Indiana Jones Emperor's Tomb. Next I'm going to go over more recent games, but they're just not quite up on the list. Destiny 1, Deus Ex 1, by the way, the new RoboCop game, kind of fits in that vein. There's the 3D Fall games, 3-4 New Vegas, also Outer Worlds you can sort of throw in with those. There's Amnesia, the original Dark Descent, and The Bunker recently was pretty good. Also Visage is probably my second favorite pure horror game behind Amnesia. There's Red Dead 1 and 2, and Uncharted, mainly Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4. And I think two games that came even closer to making this list were Remnant 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. Also Remnant 1's pretty good. Anyway, so let's finally get into the actual list. At number 10, I have AC Syndicate, which, and although Assassin's Creed hasn't been quite as good lately, it had a really good run there. And at the very end of the main run was AC Syndicate, which I know like a lot of people don't like really because it's basically Victorian GTA. But to be honest, that's why I like it. It's really crazy with like all the vehicles and you just straight up have a gun. And another thing that was good was that the stealth was some of the best in the series with really good vertical level design. They also had the opportunity system in there really well. And the Victorian setting is just great. It's probably one of my favorite settings they've done. Probably third. And two others that were probably close behind for Assassin's Creed games were Brotherhood and AC4. Next we got Star Wars Race for Revenge. Even though I mentioned that I didn't put a lot of nostalgic games on here, this game's probably like the pinnacle of nostalgia when I was a kid. It was a racing game which I was really into, and it's more specifically a pod racing game. This is pod racing. I always really loved Star Wars, and so this makes it up here. And Race for Revenge isn't just a nostalgia game, it's also a really good fast-paced racer. The controls are smooth and the vehicle combat's really fun. Next at number 8, I have Dead Space 2. Which is my favorite of the Dead Space. I haven't finished one remake yet, but still pretty sure it's Dead Space 2. It really strikes a balance well with action and horror, and just the world of Dead Space is great. And it's such good gameplay and the shooting feels really good. Yeah, it's a bit hard to describe exactly what's so great about Dead Space, but it's pretty good. Next I have Dishonored, which is really good. Arcane also has Dishonored 2 and Deathloop, which are good. don't check out Redfall. Dishonored 1 was has the pinnacle of level design and has really good stealth action gameplay. It's really smooth and there's a lot of flexibility in the gameplay. And it also has a really fun setting with this steampunk world of a lot of dark magic stuff mixed in. It's really good. Next one has a lot of competition inside its series, but I think out of the ones I played, I'm gonna have to say it's Resident Evil 4 Remake. I played 0 through 8, both 1, 2, and 3 being the remake version. Although I did actually also play the original RE4. Man, I think RE4 Remake is just the best. It's got really good horror atmosphere, both some really good action gameplay, which makes it one of the best action horror games out there. The shooting and combat flow are really good, especially like how they added in parries, which are really fun. Resident Evil is such a fun series with its older action movie tone, both this really interesting classic horror and classic zombies world it has built up. Also, Resident Evil isn't exactly known for its story, but its characters, I believe, are really good. And some of the best characters are here and more fleshed out in RE4 Remake. And the runners-up for the Resident Evil series, out of what I played so far, would be 8, 5, the original 4, and 2 Remake. Next, we have Black Ops 1, which is probably one of the games I played most of ever. Like when I was a teenager, I played it so often. I got to like 6th or 7th prestige in it. I mean, it's definitely the best COD. It just has, the right amount of stuff, it gets the gameplay of Call of Duty just right, and it's pretty relatively well balanced and has a good feel and probably one of the better settings, which a bit disappointing they never used it ever again. The Cold War stuff. Also, the campaign and the zombies mode were some of the best in the series. There's also the Modern Warfare 2. Both versions are pretty good. Advanced Warfare is pretty good. First Modern Warfare Reboot's pretty good. As for some runner-ups on COD. Alright, so next we have Skyrim. This is just the pinnacle of Bethesda's RPGs. There's a reason to keep remaking it. It's such a great world and characters and places to see that you really just want to explore. It's big, but it's not too big. There's all sorts of weapons and powers and upgrades and skill tree choices and different skill builds you can do. It's just a really fun game, next we have, and I'm considering Demon Souls 2, Elden Ring, all like sort of part of a series, even though they're not technically all in a series. But for my pick of the Souls games is Bloodborne. Elden Ring was close, but Bloodborne, I think its atmosphere is probably what tips it over the line. It also has some of the best gameplay with just how fastly you dodge and just has a really good feel to it. The pistols and other ranged weapons are really fun. With how they could parry, but even if you equip more into blood tinge, you could also use them as a fairly good way of getting a small strike in when you need it. And I shouldn't underemphasize that world, because it's just like everything great about that Victorian horror stuff that you love. Also, all the areas are really good. All the spooky castles and haunted mansions. Decrepit streets, they're all really fun. And it's probably just even though Souls would advance in a lot of ways, it's probably always going to come back to here for now. And they did come close with Elden Ring. DS3 is also really good. So next I have Arkham Knight. A lot of people will probably pick City. City's really good, but I think that Arkham Knight, I think the main thing I like about it is it's the only Batman game where you get the full Gotham. It feels like a full city, and it's a very good looking game. I probably even say it's my favorite game aesthetics of all time. It is gorgeous, but I also like how the stakes in the story feel really high, even though there's a sort of obvious twist in the story, but it's still told really well, and it gets a little deeper than the other stories. And I also like the Batmobile a lot more than other people. I thought those sections were really fun, especially the Riddler races. And of course, the combat and stealth has reached its peak, and it's at its best. Everything we love about the former games is mastered here. And this game also had like a lot of good DLC. There's the Season of Infamy, and I really like the Riddler tracks. And there's also that Batgirl DLC. That was pretty good. Next we have Jedi Fallen Order. Now Jedi Survivor does expand on the gameplay a lot, especially in platforming actually. But I like Jedi Fallen Order for two main reasons. Is that the bosses are harder, and I like the story more, but mainly because the villain, opposed to Jedi Survivor's villains, is a lot better, and it just works a lot more. And Souls-like with Jedi stuff really makes sense. And just everything about it's so fun. It's just about all you could want out of a Jedi Star Wars game. And then again, this Survivor is really close. It does add a lot. With all the stances and stuff, and the open world's a bit better. Actually, it's really hard to choose, but I initially think Jedi Fallen Order. And I also like how the boss fights are significantly harder in Jedi Fallen Order. I think the only one that comes close in Survivor is a certain spoiler boss. And lastly, I have Titanfall 1, and yet again, I know a lot of people will probably say 2, but I really feel like, which I also really like too, of course, but I think that it doesn't quite, I feel like the Titan gameplay in Titanfall 1 was better for me, at least. I liked how you could choose your loadout for the Titan, more specifically, you weren't locked into like a character type. Titanfall 1 established the core wall running, double jumping gameplay that Titanfall is known for, which just feels really good, and the shooting is super smooth, and all the gameplay combined feels like you're playing a really cool sci-fi action movie. Also, I think the level design, probably the main thing that's flat out better than Titanfall 2. The maps were a lot better in Titanfall 1. I also feel like it was a bit better balanced. But maybe that's just me. Although, of course, there is a lot of stuff I like in Titanfall 2. The grappling hook is really fun. And major number one point is the campaign in Titanfall 2 is really good. But I think I had to say Titanfall 1. And I ended up playing it a lot more. I got to like 7th or 8th gen pilot. So that's it. That's what I think the best games of all times are. What do you think about that? I don't know. You probably think I'm wrong. Thank you to you guys for getting us to 1,000 subs. It's a really big step, and can't thank you enough for that. Anyway, thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.